Call our meeting to order. A meeting for November the 3rd, 2023, 2 p.m. Surry County Board of Elections. First off, we'll have our conflict of interest. As Surry County Board of Elections, we have a duty to avoid conflict or appearances of conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict or of interest or any appearance of a conflict with respect to any matters coming before our board today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter. We have our minutes from our October the 3rd, 2023 meeting for approval, which are in front of you. Give you a few minutes to peruse and we'll seek a motion for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from our board meeting of October 23rd, 2023 as written.
We have a motion and we have a second for approval of our October 23rd minutes. Any discussion? If none, all those approved say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and approved. Okay. We'll now open our public forum for anyone who wishes to have a message for the Board of Elections. At this time, anyone? Again, please.
Thank you. Adrian Bell, the county party chairman, asked me to represent the party as he should. Not come since I live close by. It's fine. She asked me to thank the staff, Michelle and Sydney and the board for all your work and to thank you for your work. And since the last meeting, I think with all the discussion about looking for early voting staff, Adrian has recruited, I think, about 18 people. She has a list and an ongoing list and trying to recruit for Michelle when you're ready to have that list.
Okay, great.
She's, I think, recruited about 18 people to assist with that, but they'll all work out or not. But she has done that, and we are the party folks and the officers are looking for folks to help with early voting because it is a bit of a crisis. I mean, really is. And she's still adding to that list. And I think they also wanted me to say that the party prefers opening as many voting sites as possible, including Elkin and Pilot Mountain. But understanding the situation you're in, we do understand the issues that you're facing in that type of thing. So, but of course, the party would prefer to have as many sites open. But thank you all again for your work, and I've enjoyed being here, and thank you very much.
Again, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. I don't know if there is anyone on the line, no one online for the,
There is not.
okay, for public forums. If not, we will at this time, I'll close the public forum portion of our agenda and get into the business. Our 2024 primary election early voting plan.
I did go, look at the new law that Mark spoke about last time. Senate Bill 747, which is now law, just to make sure there was something we weren't missing as it pertains to early voting. And it doesn't look like anything, differs from the sheet, I gave you last time with the guidance of the hours and the days required for even year elections. So nothing here that would need to be added to this. So this takes care of everything that our minimum that we would need to meet. So we did speak with the Pilot Mountain Rescue Squad. Sydney did go there to do the ADA survey. Unfortunately, they are doing some renovations and said that it would not be available for the March primary. The renovations would not be complete. They certainly think and hope it'll be complete for the general. So Sydney did email the town manager, who promptly got back with her and gave some alternative sites for the primary. One of those sites was Armfield, and the town manager said, but unfortunately that would put most of the senior events, senior service type events at Armfield out of commission during that 17-day period. So his first preference would be the library. So we did speak with the library, and the lady there was eager and willing and said, we would love to have you back. So we do have a location. Again, that's for the board to decide, but we've not done an ADA survey at the library. But if this board determines that we'll have a location there, we can do that next week. But so we will not be able to utilize the rescue squad in Pilot.
Then primary day.
For the early voting, and of course, primary day, it's at Armfield, election day. Elkin Rescue Squad is good to go. No problems there. That's what we've used since 2020, so we are good there. And of course, Mount Airy and here.
Michelle, if I may ask, was there a reason to change from the library to?
I know during COVID, Jimmy, the library was not an option.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's when we had to look elsewhere because of the social distancing restrictions.
Right.
So the town of Pilot was good enough to let us use the basement of their city hall. But since then, and they told us this will be a one-time deal because they were totally revamping it for the police department.
Okay.
So they are fully in there now, and that's when we had to go in 2022 to the rescue squad. And once we got there, though, it was perfect. We spent some money to make it work for us.
Okay.
In hopes that we could stay there a while. And I don't think that will be a problem. It's just they've got money and they're doing some much needed additional renovations.
And when we did have the library, it worked well in Pilot Mountain.
As far as I know, Dwayne probably can speak to that more than anybody. It was before my time, but I think I know Angie spoke something about parking. And then Dwayne, did you say was restrooms?
Remembering back to whenever we did use the basement of the library, the restrooms are right there in the same area. The parking, whenever you go 50 feet from the door. Parking is limited and, is workable. But there are some things now that would maybe help with some of the in and out traffic. Before, in elections past, there seemed to be a lot of in and out traffic from the outside coming in to use the restrooms for the poll workers outside the building and such. That there was a lot of in and out. And how many of you voted so far? And conversation and such that would go on, and while voters were in there. But now there is, in the change of law, anyone that comes in that is not coming in to vote for any purpose has to sign in and register on a list. And so I don't know that would slow any conversation down, but it should. Well, you'd only hope so. Curtail a lot of the conversation while going in. So a little tight. I would say that that Sydney needs to look at the doorways, that needs to look at the ADA approval. That would be my first thing, because back when we were using this 2016, 2018, seemed like I remember that some of the doors were on there. So I don't think the building was built, especially the basement, for ADA approval back decades ago, whenever it was built. So that's if we, are able to come to meet to select that site.
Just ask her to pull that ADA survey up from last night.
Great. Okay, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
I guess the only thing I want to say from staff point of view, we will make whatever this board decides happen, of course. But I think with the rule now that we are to have a chief judge, a judge, and assistants all be appointed, that could potentially mean all brand new people, which is wonderful to make our list larger.
Right.
But during those early days, especially of early voting, it can be a circus. Just with volume, just with how different it is from election day. And we will still need to keep our veteran poll workers who have experience. We'll need to still utilize them to assist these appointed people with that knowledge and experience to help keep the line moving and the process going. I think they are still essential players to any one site. Any early voting site, gotta get out of that habit. Any early voting site that we have. So I do want the board to bear that in mind. And Ken mentioned 18, that's fantastic. If the other party had 18 brand new, that's great. But especially for this first time, the primary, we would still want to pull and utilize our veteran precinct officials to assist, to accommodate, to make everything flow like a well-oiled machine, that only them having a part, in our opinion, ma'am, can make happen.
Going back to our sports and out discussion earlier, same thing. Very few sports teams are successful if they have all rookies and no veterans.
Right, right.
It makes sense that a mix makes very
And like
good
a
sense.
sport analogy too, if you have an injury or a sickness or an illness,
Okay,
then you do have to have that backup player.
exactly.
And this would be no different
Yeah.
because of 17-day period. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. So, So I think numbers out there with potential additional staff is fantastic, but I think we do have to understand that we will still be utilizing our veteran folks to make it all work.
If we were using only appointed people, new people appointed by the parties, submitted to us for appointment, without this group of veterans, what I say, veterans that have been in the trenches of early voting, some of them many, many times, it would be a chaos, it would be a disaster waiting to occur on this staff and this board, and I would hate to see that.
We don't want
Well, the
that.
voters pay the price
Mhm.
when that happens. So, yeah,
Well,
that's,
And we will too. We get the
Yes.
brunt of it. And
Absolutely.
that is not good.
You are being very generous, Michelle, with you saying that, you know, you and the staff will do everything that you all can, along with the group of people, the pool of people that you would have to meet whatever we decide. 1, 2, 3, or 4 locations. You're going above and beyond, I think, beyond what could be reasonable, but you're being strong and saying that, and I thank you for that, but we do need to be realistic with
Absolutely.
who we have, who has been submitted, and bringing it all together. What we can decide upon at that point in time, what is reasonable.
Mhm.
If it's not going to work, we don't need to decide on a plan that's going to not work. So
Because everybody suffers.
Yeah.
Voters, everybody.
I think in our decisions that we have before us, as far as the number of Saturdays, the number of hours for the Saturdays or such like that, that's easy. That's easy and can be compromising. We can work together on that. The numbers of locations, we may have philosophies on that as far as it may be differences between the parties. We may have ideas of not so much in the realm of what the party wants, but what is realistic to look at. And that's going to be a little harder, maybe. Maybe. It has been hard in some past times. Was that we were not able to compromise and have a unanimous vote, and it had to go to a higher power for the next level.
And I think too, photo ID, the board will need to determine, do you want us to do photo IDs at the early voting sites? Do you want every site to have a photo ID machine and staff manning that?
You mean the issue?
To issue them, yeah, because we will be, of course, we will be accepting photo IDs for every voter.
You
So
don't have
But
equipment too, don't you?
I'm sorry,
You don't have equipment too.
we do only have 2 machines that can be utilized. But, so I just want to put everything out there
Sure.
for you all to have
Right.
when you are doing your consideration.
when you have the machine, I'm sorry.
We've got a lot of things to take up. I don't know what order we're gonna do
Yeah.
what in, but since you brought that one to the table, I'll share my thoughts on it. You know, when I think about a county the size of Mecklenburg or Wake or Guilford, some of those larger counties in the state, and knowing that they only have the equipment to do two. I just, obviously you can do them here
Every day.
because it's here.
Mhm.
I don't know that, I'm always going to be more in favor of more sites for people to be able to vote. I know that it's funded, it's in the budget.
It is.
I'm incredibly impressed to hear that one of our 2 parties, I'll be interested to hear what the Republican Party has come up with, but at our last meeting, we said
we can't do this without, the parties provide us with the people, and now we hear the parties answered the bell. 3 of the last 4 elections, there have been 4 sites. But when you then say, let's do these photo IDs at 4 sites, I don't know. I mean, at 2 sites, you can't do them at all 4 of them. You can come here any day and get that photo ID. I don't know that I would be in favor of doing the photo ID
On site.
on site anywhere other than right here, where they can walk right next door.
And I'll
Idea.
think,
That's a great idea, because you may want to share one of the machines with the larger county. You know, the
Well, or
larger
even,
counties, that's just so unfair.
There's just no way they can do it. But I'm sure
They
they're
won't.
using
Yeah.
all 3 in their office, probably more regular than
Than we
we
are.
are. A smaller county.
Hopefully they are, but
and one way, looking at the photo ID portions, if we come together and say we're gonna have Mount Airy or add Pilot, Elkin, and not have photo ID at those 3 sites, or whichever that we was to decide upon, then is it not the responsibility for our poll workers to explain to them that they can go ahead and vote a provisional ballot and bring information in later, or that we have to then take up that provisional ballot? That puts that banner then on this table as a provisional, and with what they may bring in or not bring in between then and election day, 5 p.m. or 7:30?
With absentee by mail, 7:30.
7:30. Okay. So, by not having the photo ID equipment out there, then the people says, well, I'm gonna go ahead and vote, and I'm gonna vote provisional ballot. Well, that takes it into another step that has to come.
And then I think you're gonna get into the conversation of how's that fair for every voter? Every voter then is not being treated equally if it's provided at one and not at the other, and it forces that person to vote provisional, where at Mount Airy, that's not on the table by having the photo ID machine there.
You think,
and that harkens back again to the thing that happened a few years ago where we had early voting in Elkin and did
Not
not in
Pilot.
Pilot Mountain.
Mhm.
And, well, we just do not want to go there, in my opinion.
well, realistically, as we use that word,
Mhm.
I think it would be good to know and remember that most people do in Pilot Mountain go to Mount Airy, and you've got 17 days of early voting and it's a primary, it's not a general election.
Right.
And Elkin too. Certainly these people do come to other locations and within the county.
Mhm.
And realistically, you've got to look at the advantages and disadvantages, that we have right before us.
Mhm.
And I
And
think
weigh all those out.
thinking
Yeah.
that they do probably travel, to other places within our county within the 17 days, certainly they do.
At a minimum, to get the
At a-
photo ID.
Well,
And they can get the
Well-
photo ID now.
and they wouldn't have to have a provisional if they wanted to vote another day and come and get that voter ID in Dobson.
Mhm.
And they're coming to Dobson. Every time we come here, I see so many folks coming into the tax office. I think, don't you use bill pay or something? Like we do for everything. But they want to come in and they bring grandma and Aunt Sue and,
And some
and
still
little Timmy.
pay
And,
cash.
they're all coming in to make the official payment.
Mhm.
And, but anyway,
Mhm.
I'm just thinking realistically that you know, we do travel from place to place and there's no, you know, people would say in Pilot, because I've heard them say, we live in Pilot. They don't want to come to Mount Airy to vote. Well, listen, you do go to Mount Airy. Regardless, I mean, most everybody, we try to shop locally. We try to do as much as we can locally. And Elkin people come over here too. I don't know, just advantages and disadvantages. And we could make a list of them.
On the voter ID issue.
Uh-huh.
How many more voter IDs have we issued since our last board meeting?
Sure. We have held 3 events this week. In Pilot, we had 0.
Mount Airy was
Where
0
did
a
you
couple
have
weeks ago.
that?
Right.
Armfield Center, the same. Yeah, again, we
How about the
Spoke-
pilots?
spoke to the town manager. And that was, you know, recommendation, again, thinking rec centers has a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we went to Reeves Community Center yesterday and had great success.
Okay.
We issued 14 photo IDs.
Wow.
We had like 6 or 7 voter registration updates. One person registered to vote, has never registered to vote in their life. They lived in New York, never voted, never registered here, never voted, never registered.
And they're registered to
That
vote.
lady registered. And then
That's good
we
to hear.
did obtain like 4 people signed up to be a poll worker. So
Excellent.
Reeves is
That's great
just,
news.
That is
booming.
great news.
you know,
Yeah.
I requested that they set us up right at the front door in the lobby.
Right.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And we had 4 people come just to us that didn't come to Reeves. They came just for that.
Okay.
Today we set up at the Veterans Fair. And when I left at about 12:30, we had done 6 photo IDs.
Okay.
And Robin and Andrew are there now. So
So we've doubled the
yes,
number
but we have doubled the number in 2 days.
and then some. Yes.
And then Monday, we go to Elkin Recreation Center.
Okay.
During the day, and we're going back to Reeves Monday night to catch a different group.
Group.
The nighttime workout people are the workers, you know,
Yeah,
who have
exactly.
jobs.
Right.
So we're gonna go from 4 to 8 on Monday night, sit in the same spot. And then, the last thing we're doing, I've contacted all of the facilities. Nursing homes, assisted living, rehabs, and have got response from 2 out of 5 that they want us to come. And staff can do that because we don't have to have a MAT team for that, because we're just doing what we would do if they come here to just strictly issue, photo IDs. So 2 out of 5 have responded, and we're gonna get them in November. The 2 that responded were eager, said, yes, let's get that taken care of ahead of the game for those that do not have an ID with us. And then we will have no more time to do any more outreach in that
Right.
respect after November.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely doubled, and we've
Yeah.
had 3, 4 come in off the street here this week. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when the calendar turned over to November, people thought, oh, it's election.
That
And,
makes
and
sense.
it's just.
Psychological.
It's a psychological
Yeah.
change, yeah. And the ads are increased on TV, so even though it's not
True.
for us, it
That's a-
still makes
yeah,
people
that's
go, oh,
true.
wait.
That is true.
And
Good to know.
did I hear you right earlier to say, in a one-on-one conversation, that you had someone come in that wanted to vote today?
This lady came straight in, made a beeline straight to our table, and she had her wallet with, she said, I'm here to vote. I said, well.
We wish everybody were that eager to vote. I tell you.
She said, well, what do you mean? I want to vote for president. And I said, can't do that now. I can't do that anywhere now. That's next year.
Come back in a few months. But the eagerness, I
But
mean,
again, and I'll say this. She saw voting, she heard voting, and she knew where to go. It was the Mount Airy one stop. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's where she always voted.
That is something.
Yeah.
If I could ask for the voter IDs here in the last couple of weeks that has been issued. have they been issued to persons that did not have a photo ID?
I was thinking the same
No.
thing. I was, I was thinking the very same thing.
Not one.
Everybody's got a driver's license, you know.
Well, they need to update.
And actually, the lady who registered to vote the first time ever yesterday at Reeves, we asked her if we could do a photo ID if she needed one, and she said, well, I don't drive. I said, or if you have a valid driver's license. She said, I don't, but I have a valid ID from the DMV. And I said, that will work perfect. She said, then I don't need one.
Okay.
So she didn't have a license, but she had a non-operator ID from the DMV. So no one that we know of has said, I need it because I don't have this, or this.
And
If we have the ability to make photo IDs in Mount Airy, did you already have it set up that people could be, as an already fixed, so you could staff that one? If you want to do photo IDs at 2 locations?
We could absolutely make that work for 2 locations, yes. Here it's not an issue.
Right.
It's next door.
I was
Now, if
thinking-
we had the staff, yeah, we could do 2 at Mount Airy if we saw that the volume was there and needed it, 2 machines.
Well,
Because we have the office here.
I was just thinking if we have it at Mount Airy, then that'd be a whole lot less provisional votes. Wouldn't it? Would that make it less?
Should, during early voting period, yes.
But they have to come with the right information
Yeah,
But
right.
to
to
get
get early
to
votes,
succeed in getting.
early voting, you can tell them, you can't vote now, but they can come back tomorrow.
correct.
Or another
Correct.
day was
Mhm.
handy for them, if they come early.
Or
And
they could come here if they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that closes at 3. On that last Saturday at 3 o'clock, no more photo IDs can be made then until after the election.
Really?
Yeah, there's none to be made on Monday, and of course, there's none on election day.
Right.
That period has closed at 3 p.m. on Saturday before the election.
But it sounds like you and the team are doing a great job advocating for voter ID and making it available, and
We try to do outreach in every part of the county.
Yeah. That's
we
great.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some misses and we've had some hits, so, it's all in traffic flow too.
They're gonna rely on their driver's license.
They are. They
Exactly.
I mean,
truly are.
that's what's gonna happen.
99.999%.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to say talk someone into, but, yes, I have a license, okay, is your picture, have you used an old picture, have you updated your picture? No, it's about 14 years old.
Nope.
Well, we're here, you're here, it's free, that would be great for our poll workers to say, oh yeah, that's clearly you. And then they said, sure, yeah, we'll get it done.
That's
Because-
a good encouragement.
That is.
Worker has to make reasonable resemblance.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so that
Making
is
their
the
jobs
the
easier.
only time we've sort of nudged them, even if they have a driver's license.
Yes.
If it's an old photo and there's a question, let's just fix that now while we can.
I think
That
that's
might be
a
something
great
that-
forward thinking.
Yeah,
That we would encounter at early voting, because older people vote,
they do.
and a lot of older people have been taken off the road.
What are you saying about me?
My pen was pointing toward you, that was all of us. But they, there's people like my mother, and I don't know when I'm gonna take her off the road, but she will have an old picture. She wanna vote, somebody like it will wanna vote, and that might be when it's time when we need it.
Right.
I mean, because all the people that we've done so far already had the valid license.
Yeah.
We've been talking and making building blocks, which with each discussion. But now we need to take those building blocks and the ones that's gonna be solid that we can use to build the bacon. What I look and see as the first decision is, with all of these factors, what can we
Mm-hmm.
pass today? with or without photo ID available at a remote location. But with the people that are in place, that at the last meeting, we said we could comfortably probably could do 2 locations with a few towards a third. With the potential of what the parties may bring forward. I don't know if you all talked with your home party to say, or to decide if anyone that they could muster to bring in.
Communications has taken place, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. It's on our shoulders to say how many locations that we plan on opening. That's gonna work the easiest and the best. For staff, for the people there in the voting location, for us, for the voters,
17 days.
17 days.
And you know, if we have new names and they've agreed to work, never have worked before, everyone does not understand what early voting means. They may think it's just like 1 day election day. But if we can't have, out of those 17 days, if we can't utilize someone for at least 7 of those 17 days, it's not going to be productive for us to go through the hiring process and everything.
The
If
training,
they can only work 2 days out of 17, then that's really not going to be productive for us to be able to utilize them. You know, they may work and say, yeah, I can take off just to work that, thinking it's 1 day, 2 days. So, you know, there's just things that we won't know until we contact them.
and to that point, Michelle, from your experience, doesn't that pose a challenge with the number of precincts that we have open for early voting?
It can.
Um,
It absolutely can, yeah. So that's why I still feel like we need that buffer of our veteran election, early voting election workers to be able to still be present and be in every aspect of early voting for the primary.
Okay.
Photo ID is going to take just a little bit longer for the process. Photo ID accepted. Because you're gonna have to check that reasonable resemblance of name and face, name and appearance, not address, but
Right.
name and appearance. 90% are gonna be easy, but every one of them's not. And so again, you might have to break off into a, you know, small, little hearing of your chief judge and your 2 appointed judges that must make that determination.
So 3 people might have to be pulled away from the normal duty and leave that with the remainder of the staff. Working
Correct,
for them to huddle.
correct. That must be done in that very moment. So again, that's just, you've gotta have people to fill that hole so other voters can continue to vote. Voting doesn't stop for that.
Early voting staff does a great job juggling,
They do.
but with next year, they've got more balls in the air to juggle.
Definitely,
There's more responsibility.
definitely.
I understood from our last meeting, you had said that you needed 7 in Dobson, 10 in Mount Airy, 5 in Pilot, and 5 in Elk.
Mhm.
Total of 27. And I'd rounded that up to 30.
30, yeah.
Mhm.
And I know the requirements for obtaining those people now are different,
Mhm.
but your commitments for those people are what? You have, how many people do we know we have that we can rely on? I'm a little lost. I'm trying to concentrate on what Dwayne said a moment ago. I think he said we I thought you said enough to commitment to do 2 or 3
Seems like
sites.
from what Sydney had,
Said last time, no,
Yeah, but I was
for
thinking
polling,
God.
had 29 people already committed.
Mhm.
So that's already enough
But-
to,
That doesn't mean those are appointed.
I understand.
Right. And have we
None of those may be,
vetted whether or not they actually can do the job needed?
those 29, yes.
Those, okay. all
But
right.
again,
So
they may not appear on the appointed list.
that's true.
So
But
those
the-
would be the people I'm referring to as the backup and they'd still be working and they'd be additional people from the 30. But we can't guarantee those are going to be on the appointed list.
So what's, help me to understand what would prevent these 29 people from being appointed?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that from the party chair's perspective.
So it would be the party chairs that would say no. I'm not going to agree to that person.
Or those people at all. I might want a blank sheet out of the gate. That's up to the party chairs. That's
So-
not,
So the Republican Party chair would be able to scratch any Republican. Democrat Party chair would be able to scratch any Democrat,
correct,
but not the other parties. No.
correct. Yeah, they only are responsible for their party.
I can't imagine that scenario.
I cannot either.
when you're saying that is,
I hope not.
No,
they are appointed, is that appointed list approved? Do we approve?
Well, yes, you approve,
We
but
approve, but do we have to approve only who's been submitted by appointment?
well, but here's the other interesting thing. If you remember from last meeting, the way Mark and I both interpret this law, it's judges, it's chief judges, and assistants. Well, that's everybody.
Right.
That's everybody who works early voting will have to be appointed. So and again, we just don't know the answer to this yet. The state has not given anyone guidance because they're just trying to get through the current election.
Yeah.
But the way Mark and I understand it, every person in early voting that is a staff person will need to be appointed. So what we will have to do is the party chairs will submit the chief judge and the 2 judges, and then we're going to supplement the 29 that we have in as assistant.
And virtually all these people have worked these elections in the past.
On the 29, from
Yeah,
the 29, yeah.
I can't imagine that either party chair would say no. I don't want this person that's worked the election on our behalf in the past.
no, I can't either.
Well, what's the partisan
And
nature
now,
of that?
in addition to that, we know we've got 18 more, I'm just trying to. I'm not talking about advocating for more sites, less sites, I'm not talking about that at all, man. Let's set that aside completely. I'm just looking here, we've got 29 people's names. We've got 18 more names that we've asked to go get,
And we have to
Plus-
assume the Republican side will come back with names.
with some number.
Yes.
We've asked them to do this.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Well, I mean,
Well,
the pool of names, the bigger the pool, the better it is to make sure we have enough people. to do
Coverage.
Coverage.
And it would seem certainly we've got a large pool now.
And also, Clark, let me add this, the numbers that were discussed last time. Those numbers is what it took in 2022 and 2020 before photo ID. That was before we could have 12 observers per
Party.
site.
for
Yeah,
some,
right, yeah.
That is before the chief judge had to maintain a log of every person that come in and out.
Right.
That is before
Mhm.
any person in the county can challenge any voter.
Right.
That is before, there could be challenges or that's the wrong word, hearings on reasonable resemblance. at curbside,
Oh, I think it's good.
inside. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
we've got to have coverage way more than we would ever dream of for each site to possibly take care of those what ifs.
Well, for 2, 3, or 4
Absolutely.
sites,
Correct,
that's all we're talking about.
Correct.
Let's acknowledge,
right.
when we say all these sites, we're talking about, I think we would all agree, either 2, 3, or 4 sites.
Not one.
I think we would all
Well-
concede that.
Now, one site, we have to.
No question about that. So
This site here is law.
so
Yeah,
I think we would all concede, then the discussion is about whether it's either
One more or.
1 more, 2 more, 3 more.
Right.
I think that's what our discussion centers around.
yeah. Mhm.
What is the partisan makeup of those people? Are they even? I mean, do you put Republicans being a Democrat judge or Democrat being a Republican? How does that?
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting, Drew, because in an election day precinct, you have one chief judge. And you've got some Democrats, some Republicans, where they're alternated throughout. There's just some locations you're not gonna have, but maybe the chief judge be a Democrat because you've done good to find that Democrat in that particular precinct.
Mhm.
And that's it. It's on that one lone Democrat, any bipartisan team. So in a perfect world, yes, you would try to have it balanced, but that's just not this county. We don't have that
No, the-
luxury.
The numbers you gave us at last board
Legal
meeting.
use the Republican
Not
put for a Democrat judge under the category of Democrat judge for.
No, we still gotta have a Democrat. We've gotta have a bipartisan team. But again, that's what makes early voting so interesting. That's what makes that schedule so tough. That's why we have to move a Democrat all
Around.
17 days possibly around and pay them extra mileage to get a bipartisan team. Because again, you have sickness, you have things that, emergencies, you have deaths, you have things that come up.
And it's winter.
Yeah, it's, March is winter. February is winter for us.
Right.
It's our biggest
February
snow.
is when we're gonna have early voting.
And it starts February 15th.
Mhm.
And your chief judge better be out of that pool of our.
Oh, yeah.
Experience.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Veterans,
Experience.
The
yes.
judges,
I hope. I
the
don't
two
know.
judges, they better be pretty
No
much out of
guarantee.
that pool. And then as you go
Should
on
be.
down the line,
Yeah.
but now, I hope we're not setting ourselves up by today agreeing on the number of early voting locations. And then afterwards, we're going to get these approval lists.
Yeah.
And something doesn't work out on those approval lists. That there's a personality difference or there's a contention that has occurred in the
Oh, well, there's gonna be that.
2018, 2020
Always has been.
election. They say, no, this person
Well, gotta have
didn't
extra
do this in
people.
2020 like we wanted them to.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
And we don't want them in that polling site.
Right, Ken? Ken's been there.
So then
Personalities
we have
always.
staked ourselves out to our number today. But we don't know who our chiefs and assistant chiefs and
I mean,
who the commanders, the sergeants and the lieutenants are gonna be.
and Dwayne, to that conversation, we had already preliminarily, if that's a word, spoken to our captains that we have had captains. And we've already got a verbal, yeah, I'll be the captain. We already had that. Just, okay, well, then it's up to the board to decide how many locations. So, and then the law changes to where they're appointed. So then we've had to say, hey, maybe not. We hope.
Yeah.
But we just don't, it's out of our hands. We don't know.
Well, we had 2 places for the 2020, so the 2020 primary is comparable to this.
We did have 2 for the presidential primary.
What?
Correct.
I don't remember it. The 2020 primary was right before COVID hit,
Literally.
and it was still pre-COVID right
It
then that
was,
day.
yes.
Within
And
a few days.
did you remember any problems, any bad feelings because we only had those two places?
Well, we really.
I mean, enough to,
No, I mean, we had, and I reported to the board, which you two were part of. We had the most calls from Elkin upset. That they would have to come here for Mount Airy. But percentage, it
17
couldn't have
days.
even been a quarter of a percent. I mean, it was minimal.
Minuscule, yeah.
Now, I don't want to discredit those voters that they don't matter, but.
No,
But it was,
they do.
it was, in the grand scheme of things, it was minimal, but now, yes, we heard.
the few vocal. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, people in Bryan would like to have one sitting at Logan.
That's right.
People in Northwestfield would like to have somebody at Logan School there.
That's right.
That's
Right.
good.
I think what it is-
Very good point.
You know, you've got, if you look at the county, you've got 18 core precincts. And you've got 15 that lie around the perimeter of the county. Those 15 either adjoin the Virginia state line or Stokes County
Oh, well.
or Forsyth or
Yadkin and Weir.
Yadkin or Wilkes or Allegheny. And those folks consider Elkin as where they do their shopping and where that's their home. Even if they don't live in Elkin. Or they consider Pilot Mountain where they do their commerce. They don't consider Dobson and they don't consider Mount Airy. And they don't, I mean, that's not where they go.
Elections were.
You go to the folks in Shoals. And I mean, I agree with you about 17 days, but they don't come over here and they don't go to Mount Airy. They go,
But
they go to
they-
Pilot Mountain now and.
They do travel to Mount Airy and they do travel to Dobson.
Well,
You
they
know,
will argue
in
with you about
17
that.
I would say they would swear to you they didn't.
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
when they go
But
to
that
pay their
don't mean they
taxes, they'll
don't.
tell you that they do not.
Logically,
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you.
realistically,
But when
you
it
know,
comes to them casting their
that
vote,
right there makes
they
a
will
difference.
say,
They've got
I pay
plenty
my
of
taxes the
dates.
same as everybody else. And I should have the opportunity to vote in my community the same as the other man has the opportunity to pay in his.
Well,
And
so
that's,
should, Shoals. So, cause that's the far end of the county.
Mhm.
well, that's what I say. They say that they
Well,
should be able to vote in Pilot where they
but-
do their commerce.
But, well,
Elections were won or lost
They
from
may not-
Fairview to the Mount Airy Post Office on 601.
Yeah,
Those from Fairview to Mount Airy Post Office. That's.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where it's won. That's where anything's going.
Yeah.
And it's a fair question to ask, is comparing what people do every day, day in and day out, each week, comparable to something they're gonna do every 2 to 4 years. And because of the far less frequency of elections, so as the elevation of importance. And for someone, not everybody thinks the same way, but it seems that it's not an equal or fair comparison to compare what people are doing on their daily routine. I get it. Every
I
day,
agree.
you want as much convenience as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
It's just human nature.
Yeah.
But something as important as an election, hopefully, everybody has a sense of duty and an attitude that this is the most important right I have, because all the other rights come after this, that I'm willing to drive 10 miles in any direction.
Or 100.
and it is a
Or 100.
primary. This is a primary. It's not
Yeah.
the general
No.
election. That's a difference.
Yeah. And that's really
I
what I'm
mean,
talking about is the
You
primary.
could have, more than 4, but this is a primary.
Let me move this one step up. Because we've all shared, with staff, director, a lot of the things that's gonna be in our makeup for our decision. But instead of this starting to say, well, I wanna make a motion on, and the number of locations. Let's just have discussion by saying, For Dobson is the given, it's automatically a early voting site. If we say now and have discussion around the board to our feelings about adding Mount Airy as a second early voting site. I'm not more, Drew, if you have some quick responses to that, I just want to go around the table and say, how do we feel before, like I say, we get into any motion wars and not having that, what we hope would be a unanimous decision. What do you feel about Mount Airy being added to the list?
I don't favor that myself. Well, I want, me and you were both on the 2020. Like, we come to two places in 2020 primary because there's actually fewer local candidates in a presidential election year than the off. Because you have the registered deeds and 2 county commissioner seats. And how many, is it 2 or 3 school board seats? 3. And the Mountaineers will have a primary with their stuff.
Yeah,
And
city
that plays
schools,
into it.
Yeah.
city schools, Mount Airy city schools and a municipality.
I always like using precedent and why we did something a certain way before. And I think the way we done it in 2020 worked.
With adding Mount Airy as a second site.
With Dobson and Mount Airy.
Dwayne, based on Drew's very good point, and based on the numbers, historical numbers of number of voters, and again, I can't let go of the fact that hopefully most people's attitudes about an election every 2 to 4 years is something that's not an inconvenience to them to come vote. I'm in favor of Mount Airy as in addition to Dobson.
I concur.
I'm certainly for Mount Airy, always will be in favor of Mount Airy.
Absolutely. Would be crazy not to.
So we all concur that Mount Airy should be in the mix of whatever motion that we are hopefully able to go forward with.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Now, let's go one step higher. And I don't know if it should be broken out or if we should just put Pilot and Elkin together. If one is open, should the other be open? That's maybe one other deliberation, but
Probably. Yeah, I
Okay.
think I think the board has been burned in the past by doing them.
One or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we
I
have to
can't-
have both of them or neither.
Yeah, I was
It
gonna
was
say.
a
I
bloodbath.
feel the same.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll say it this way. I know. I think you were on the board the
Mhm.
year that it was done. And they were split and only one. Elkin was on and Pilot was not, I think.
No, it's opposite. Pilot was on and Elkin was not.
I was not on the board at that time, but was a party activist at the time.
For personal reasons.
Do not do that again.
okay. I started with Drew on our second step with our third step of talking about Elkin and Pilot. And, here we can break them out one or the other, up or down. But I'm gonna take what you said as your comment to that. Barbara, what's your feelings about Elkin and Pilot? I want to add one more building block. We do have the budget.
And the budget, I requested the maximum sites to be covered.
So
And
So-
then that was approved.
approval for opening 4 sites, money or financially, budget wise, is in place.
Okay.
So that's another one of those little building blocks that we didn't discuss when we was first starting. So go ahead, Bob.
I agree with, Clark. I concur that we need both Elkin and Mount and Pilot if, not one or the other. Because I know there is that would not be good feelings within the county. And I have a situation, and Roger knows about it. I had retired from Surry County Schools. And I did one contract year with Mount Airy City Schools. Had a great year, but we could only do it at that school 1 year. Well, Elkin hired me for the next year to contract. And Roger immediately was upset because we live in Pilot Mountain. But I had only given him my word. And I want you to know, when I called and I left a message at the city office, that I just had to decline. I hadn't signed the paper or anything. They called me back and cursed me out for not taking that job because I told her the distance, the travel, and you should have heard what I heard.
So maybe we should.
It was really, it was bad. It was really bad. And I thought, no, I know I made the right decision. And, I do not want to work for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but I'm just saying.
Good. I too feel if we choose one beyond the two, that we got to do both, Elkin and Mount Pilot, if we do both. The budget is there. That's good. That doesn't mean we have to spend it either.
Right.
So,
All about saving money.
and it is taxpayer money. So if we don't have to spend it and we can do everything effectively, then that would be another fault.
They
Secretary?
definitely will not be any primary within the city of Pilot Mountain.
Correct.
And in Elkin, they might be a primary in a school district. one
Or
school
city
district,
school,
Yeah.
right.
One
Mhm.
might be.
Yeah, and we don't know that at this
Right.
time. Yeah.
The only question though is if you have it in one, do you have it in the other?
No,
Mhm.
No, I mean, you
Right.
put those two together.
yeah.
So
You're
what's
gonna have it, you can't,
You can't split.
Can't pick one over the other. Yeah.
if we do one, you gotta do the other.
Okay. Now let's go one more round. One more step up. We've theoretically in our verbalization approved and said, not approved, but agreed that we should have two. Now, adding the third and fourth location.
Well, I'm always in favor of more sites rather than less. I think anything you can do to make voting easier, I think you should. Anything that encourages people. Now, I say that, and I sat here and was as critical as anyone 2 years or a year ago when going down the list and seeing where there had been 3 people or 4 people that had voted on
One day.
on one day, Pilot Mountain. I don't get caught up in the cost per vote thing. It's easy to do that, and I think I don't think that's a good gauge. I tend to look more at the cost per day. You look at the cost per day and it's not nearly as high in Elkin or Pilot Mountain as it is in Mount Airy. You've got additional costs because of running people over there to both places, travel, different things that you have to pay over there, as opposed to here because of the number of people that we've got and moving people. One thing different, odd and end things. So cost involved. If I'm a resident over there and I'm paying my taxes, which I've brought up, and then I find out that you're spending $1,800 a day for Mount Airy, and I look at my cost per day and they're $1,000 a day. And you can vote in Mount Airy, but I can't over there next door to where I live. And I'm gonna say, why? And I think that's a legitimate question if I'm a taxpayer there to ask. I do favor having 4 sites. We sat here a week ago or whenever it was we met and asked that the 2 parties provide us with the names so that we could man sites. And now the parties have come with names adequate to do that. We have our director saying we will make it happen. I'm not beyond, I'm incredibly grateful to have Ken to come here before us with the message that he's grateful and also mindful, and to bring the message from the County Democrat Party chair that he's mindful and appreciative of whatever decision this board makes, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 sites. You don't know how appreciative I am of that message that you've delivered and for the party to have made. I do favor 4 sites, but I'm not beyond compromise. So I favor 4.
Mine's short and sweet. I see many disadvantages to 4. For 2.
Based on everything we've discussed, the numbers, the budget, the number of people, the risk of the unknowns that are going to fall on our team and this board. This is an unprecedented election year with all the additional laws and requirements in place. The fact, as our colleague to my right mentioned earlier, 2020 worked and worked apparently well. Based on all of that, I would vote for 2 sites. I would favor 2 sites. Dobson and Mount Airy. And that's not to slight Elkin or Pilot Mountain at all. But I just think we're close enough and it's important enough. I would drive 5 hours to go vote if that's what I needed to do. And to ask somebody to drive 15 to 20, 30 minutes, I just don't think for something this important is too much to ask or too much to expect.
Then invite you at the doorway to get in.
So, for those reasons, I favor 2 sites.
Thank you.
You're up.
You're up on the table. You're right.
In 1984, I drove from Chapel Hill to Marsh Township, so I
On election.
and got beat like a drum.
There you go. Good
Like a
example.
drum.
Long and hard.
Oh, just, woo. But I would not even consider voting absentee ballot. That was how much.
It meant to you.
Yes.
Wow.
I personally would favor Mount Airy and Dobson. It worked in 2020. We've got the new laws, we've got new things going on. We could have 2 photo IDs, one in Mount Airy, one here. But I like Clark, I'm open to compromise if it takes 2, because what I had to do last year, I don't have to do that again. watch my old big head.
When it
Sat
was
there.
non-unanimous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch my big head there on television, getting a picture in the paper, look like a super head. But that.
Oh, but your mama loved it.
But you were sitting there so pretty.
Right.
Storyboard.
It took it off me.
Let's stick to the voting sites now.
So wait, that was two.
So you would be certainly in favor of two, but you would be in compromise if it was on the table for four with, let's just call it unofficial.
Of a vain man.
One thing I look at our 17 days of early voting is that 17 days is a convenience given to the voters, along with absentee voting is a convenience to the voters, where that they feel like there might be some reason for an inconvenience on primary or election day. Yeah, they may say, well, I'd rather go early and beat the crowds. I don't want to go. But we put 18 remote voting sites on primary and election day, touching each of these townships. That is primary and election day that is for them to be able to vote. That is the convenience. Absentee and early voting is like I say, giving the voters much more convenience if they wanted to, in some cases, travel from Low Gap to Dobson, or Low Gap to Mount Area, or Elkin to Dobson, to be able to have the opportunity to vote early. So in all of our building blocks, I appreciate what our director has said, that she will do everything she could do to make it happen. I don't want that to be a stretch where that it comes to unfavorable, or that is hard or impossible to do. I think it is possible. So that's my thoughts. Now comes the time for us to seek a motion on what we talked about to get started with this. And so
I didn't get what you said.
you didn't,
No, I, 2 or 4.
Through 11.
I didn't, actually, I stay
Sorry.
truthful on that. We can do 2 and be fine. I would be favorable. I am favorable for no less than 2. If we have full places,
Why he's the chair.
if we have full places, it will give our 2 remote locations in the county an opportunity. As long as it doesn't stretch our resources. And that is a concern of mine.
And Mr. Chair, that's exactly my thought too. It's not just because we can and we will. It's what are we going to experience and go through in the process to get to where we do get it done, with so many unknowns and they are unknowns. We know what the requirements are with the new laws. We don't know how that's going to play out. After this election year, we will be better prepared for the next election cycle, because barring that
It's the same.
changes in the law,
Right.
some leave and some may leave and some will come in again. And I think we have to assume that probably more will come in later.
Mhm.
I just think that to serve our taxpayers and serve our voters, we want to serve them well. I'm sure we all agree on that. We want to serve them as well as we can. Access in and let them get on with their everyday lives after they voted. So I mean, we've got a lot of unknowns. I think we need to reasonably take those into consideration. There's going to be a lot of training involved, and I know that's going to go well, but it's a lot more to keep up with in this election cycle. If it's in fewer places than more, then it's easier to oversee and manage and make sure we're performing at a very, very high level, rather than stretching ourselves thin with so many of these new things that now we're not performing as well as we want to. We're determined to do it, but the reality is we're not able to do it as well as we could with fewer.
I want to bring one more building block in, then I'll come to you, Clark. That is Sydney pulling the file for the basement of the pilot library,
Mhm.
the ADA report. How does that play? Does that play anything into our thought?
It did pass ADA in 2019. That was the last time a survey was done. It did only have one van accessible handicap space, parking space. But everything else, the doors, the facility, everything else was fine. And then it's 25 approximate parking spaces according to this last survey. Now, again, that's 2019. I don't know if anything's changed there. You know, Barbara might speak to that more than anybody since you live in Pilot, but I do not know.
I think
Any
that's,
changes?
that's about the same.
No
Yeah.
renovations or anything that you can think
No,
of to
none.
affect that.
Mm,
Okay.
They need some.
Yeah,
So at this point, there's no drawbacks that would prevent Armfield, not Armfield, but the pilot library basement serving and the passing the ADA.
yes.
So that's a non-issue.
That's good information for whenever.
And it looks like, when Pilot 1 and 2 merged to one, is when.
Yeah.
We pulled from
Yeah.
there.
We're gonna have to have
Yeah,
it during
you-
the one,
you-
if we'd use for one day, we're gonna have to have it.
I think we probably were looking at numbers, you know, a bigger facility because we were just having, was that an election day site? Was it the library and election day site? It had to be, it had to be on field and the library, was that
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
One
yeah,
and two,
Those
okay.
two, yeah.
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 Yeah, until they made it one.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Mhm.
Okay.
Which that would have been, see, 2020 was the first year it was combined.
At one time, the pilots, the Surry Community College Pilot Center
Was the early voting.
was early voting.
Yeah.
So one time, I believe.
Mhm, it was. 'Cause
May
was
I
teaching
amplify
it.
mine? Just a short set, in seconds. What I see,
You want to re-amplify it?
no, I don't, just amplify it.
Okay,
If I do it again, it'll be a re,
okay.
the third time.
You're
it'll
adding
be
to it.
re-amplify. Yeah, I think that's right. I would wish we could have it more. I wish we could do more and have more. To make it easier for everyone. But I remember why I was for 2 in 2020, it was because your predecessor, Bill Hammond, come up with 2. And,
As a compromise,
yeah,
because y'all met, I think 3 times before you came to that compromise, because you did not want a non-unanimous vote.
right. And as the chairman knows and Michelle knows, if Bill Hammond said do something, Drew was behind him. That's my amplification. Because Bill was a candidate too at one time, and if he told me jump off the Crutchfield Bridge, I'd do it.
You would not.
I mean, the man is,
A man of character.
you ain't a kid. He's a Hammond.
But you're right, there were multiple meetings in order to get a unanimous vote. And Bill made the statement before the vote that he was willing to compromise, although he was always for the most locations. But he was willing to compromise because he did not want it. He did not want this board to have, for the first time ever, have a non-unanimous vote.
And I remember, you remember me asking last time, is there any way for a compromise?
Mm-hmm.
And there was no movement for a compromise at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how that
Yeah.
happened.
So. May I open the floor for,
Can I?
oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
I wanted to amend one of the things that I had said before we got to this portion of the where we were at. We were talking about the photo ID. And having the availability of 2 sites
Mhm.
for those. Drew brought up a good point. In that we've got the equipment for 2 sites. I think I can see where we're going. I would want to change the way I view, because I had said earlier, I'd only be in favor of doing that here. I would amend the way I view that if this board does vote to have 2 sites here and in Mount Airy. I would want to revisit the way we approach that, because as Drew rightly points out a moment ago, when he talked about that, the provisionals that will be involved, that comes back here, and those are, this is gonna be something that y'all are going to get to enjoy that you've not experienced in the past.
You're gonna have a lot from election day
It's gonna surprise
that are
you
inevitable.
what's involved there. And,
It makes for a long night.
so I just want to amend my earlier statement when I said something that I'm in favor of, because I hadn't anticipated that we would get to the place where we are now. So,
So Clark, as I understand, what you're saying is if we have 2, that those 2 should have voter ID capability.
I don't know why we would not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
I agree.
listen, I cannot tell you how impressed I am that the Democrat Party has come with all these people willing to volunteer. I know how much easier that's going to make Michelle's job in being able to have people. I would assume that the Republican Party has done likewise to some measure. To be able to incorporate new people in with those who are seasoned,
Mhm.
to fill these different roles that are required. And
That's a beautiful outcome.
those will be some of those positions. And so certainly being able to do that shouldn't be an issue, both here in Dobson and in Mount Airy, if that's how we vote. So it would seem to me, since we have the equipment, it would make nothing but sense to do that. So,
Should we make that part of the motion as well?
well, I don't know if we need to, or
I
do it, or
don't
do
think we got a
it.
motion yet.
Or
Well,
do
no,
it as-
no,
do
when
it as a
it's
separate,
coming.
however it needs to be
I would
done.
say that as far as the photo ID in the remote location, and that would only be one, that would be dependent upon what our vote is, as far as if we go 2, 3, or 4.
Gotcha.
If it's at 2, I think it's, the director says that we should absolutely put it in Mount Airy. If they are able to catch those people that do not have a photo ID and are able to get them a photo ID, that saves us around this table grief and those provisional ballots being added to what's already going to be.
It'll save us grief. I'm not afraid of a little work that one night, but it will save our election workers grief.
Mhm.
Too.
Yes, it will.
That's
Not just
important.
us,
Yes,
but
it
me.
will.
That's important.
Yes,
When
it
they're
will.
out in the field,
Lord have mercy.
you gotta support the people out in the field.
Because
That's
they're the
right.
same people you're gonna turn around and utilize to help deliver supplies, set up precinct on Monday night, and work for 15, 16 hours the next day on election day.
Yeah.
It helps
To-
voters
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, when I hear grief, I hear an opportunity to eliminate risk.
Mhm.
I mean, I deal with risk management every day.
Mhm.
And if you can eliminate risk, then
Why
you're,
not?
you're gonna have a much better outcome.
And you all are going to have an enormous amount of provisionals from election day.
And those are
Enormous.
risks because there is no upfront ID at the time. They've
Right.
filled out a provisional. We're having to now go through that process.
Mhm.
I'm all in favor of things that make sense to eliminate risk. 'Cause
Yeah.
everybody benefits from it.
We would have been here last year, we would have been here till we'd be eating breakfast. If it hadn't, the staff hadn't went through it first and telling us what was going on
Yeah.
with this file, and
Mhm.
what's going on with this file, then we looked at it and double checked staff, but the staff's always right. And
Then
that's,
it's two teams set up, two bipartisan teams.
Yeah.
Set up to be able to do remarking
Mhm.
and going through where the ballots will not read by the ballot reader. And that you have to remark that ballot for what you look at and what you have in before you. And that takes time. That takes,
And if I may add to that, based on the new law, there's gonna be 4 of us next year,
for somebody.
4 of somebody. I mean, could be some of us, could be none of us.
That's right.
So it's still gonna be one person less of this board. that
That's
is
right.
Backing up. That's another risk. That to me, that's significant.
And usually there's two teams going while the chairman is still, you're working, doing something while the two
Right.
teams are marking.
stamping.
And now that's not gonna be an
Now,
option.
next year, one of the 4 is the
Will be the
chairman.
chair.
It's gonna be one of them on
That's
the
right.
team of, so again, unknown risk. We hadn't even, that just hit me as we were talking about this. I mean, this board's
Yep.
going to look different in number of people, and it's gonna look different in faces sitting at this table.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't wanna get in the weeds of that,
Gotcha,
but,
yeah.
you know, if you all have one that you, the bipartisan team marking that ballot says, we can't determine if that's a mark,
mhm.
then you defer to the full board. Well, what if it's a 2-2 decision?
Yeah.
You're dead in the water.
I
Well-
do not,
I know what we gotta do.
it's the father's.
Goes to the state.
Goes to the
No common
state.
sense. It don't make
You're
sense.
dead in the water.
Mhm.
Does that not go into the state
That's
board of
gonna
elections
be,
at that point?
that's horrible.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
dead
If it's,
in the
if
water.
it's supplemental absentee, how's that gonna work?
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
I know.
I don't either. I don't think they do either.
Not to get into
Anyway,
that,
yes.
but,
Mm.
yeah, there's so much.
To my point, more
unknowns.
risk.
Yeah.
It may not happen, but we have to expect that it will happen. It's just a question of how much.
Well,
So-
Pack your pillow and your toothbrush.
Hair mattress.
Theoretically, the chairman is not supposed to or shouldn't make motion. It should be to the board trying to move this thing along. I make a motion that we have 4 early voting sites for the primary in 2024.
I'll second that.
We have a motion. And we have a second discussion on the motion. No discussion. All those in favor for having 4 voting sites for primary 2024. I'm going to ask if you will raise your hand. Motion did not carry. I, as chairman, want to make a motion for Board of Elections having 3 voting sites for the upcoming primary Fort Dobson, Gibbon, Mount Airy, and Pilot Mountain. Motion on the floor, looking for a second. Hear no second. The motion died. I make a motion. You're not supposed to do this, I'm full of them, aren't I? I make a motion that this Board of Elections approves for the 2024 early voting primary, 2 voting sites. One, of course, Dobson as a given, and Mount Airy for the 17 early voting day.
Second.
I second. Yeah.
We have a motion. We have several seconds. Any discussion on the motion on the floor for having 2 voting sites in the early primary day? If not,
Adequate discussion having been held with a reservation, I will vote in favor of the motion.
all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. We have come to a unanimous motion,
I got
a
to vote 3
unanimous
times.
decision to hold 2 voting sites for the early voting days.
You're an expert in Robert's rules. I have to compliment the chairman. I appreciate you.
Wonder where he learned that.
Commend the chairman as well.
Yeah,
You know where he learned that.
you was very,
That
you was
is-
a good student, Danny.
Job. On his job.
We have part of our decisions made. Next on the list is going to
You're not
be,
done.
we are not done, but we have accomplished, and I thank you all for hearing, for making the information available for us to be able to make a decision that we can all agree upon, and all chances were given for it being in whatever way it could be.
I want to say, can we have a 5-minute break? Please.
We will be in recess for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put my coat on, I think.
Oh.
3 to 5 o'clock, they ran it that, what happened?
Yeah.
So many people. So many people.
We need a gavel for the chairman.
You mean,
Thank you.
that's the gavel.
We're back in session. Thank you.
Didn't done.
Yeah, Sydney does.
Okay, next on our list will be days of operation and time. Help us with that,
Okay.
Madam Director.
Required to be open Monday through Friday from 8 to 7:30. You're also required to be open the last Saturday before Election Day, from 8 to 3. So what's in question or what's up for vote is the 2 Saturdays and the 2 Sundays. The first weekend, the second weekend.
Could we have, the information, how we've done it every time before?
Never have done Sunday.
Okay.
Well, I say never. I think they did try it one time. And the numbers just did not produce enough to make it worth it. But Saturday, y'all have done a mix, for Saturday. But most recently, 8 to 3, keeping it consistent with that last Saturday.
The other 2 Saturdays are options that we could vote on.
That you can vote on whether to be open or closed, or you could mix up the time. I'd say open still at 8, of course. I don't think I would mess with that, but your closing time would be up for the board to determine.
Any questions from the board?
The time has to be the same at both places.
If you
Everything.
have one open, you must have them all open the same. Yes, thank you, Drew.
Question?
So we're talking about do we want to add 2 additional Saturdays and or Sundays?
Correct.
And, okay,
And those times,
It's
because
one
you
Sa-
can
we have
play
to do
with,
one
Okay.
Saturday. Is
the
two others?
required,
have to do
the
the last
required is the
Saturday.
last one. Mhm.
Is it 2 Saturdays before that, or just 1 Saturday?
It's let me look at my calendar.
Can do 2 Saturdays.
Yeah,
So-
I think,
so-
yeah.
okay, so maybe.
I don't think it's 3,
One
is it?
additional.
Yes,
Is it 3?
can have 3 Saturdays
So
total.
it starts on Thursday, don't it? Yeah.
Yes, because the first Saturday would be the 17th, second Saturday, the 24th. The last required Saturday is the 2nd of March.
And
then-
this,
And it's required.
The last one's required by law. Yeah.
And it starts on Thursday before
It
that.
starts the 15th on Thursday by statute. Mhm.
historically, having had, I think either 1 more or 2 more Saturdays. What did that look like as far as volume of people?
We, for a primary, it's a little slower on Saturdays, but we have people pretty steady through lunch. It's.
Okay.
When you get up in the afternoon on Saturdays, people's doing other things.
Right.
I can compromise on having it open on Saturdays. Giving those from Elkin and Pilot Mountain.
Especially that
Mountain.
might work.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
might, help them and if they're coming this way and it would be an extra option since we already have 1 Saturday that is required, making it available all 3.
3. Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Well,
Do we want to have separate motion, would separate actions on the 2 extra Saturdays, and then if we open any of the Sundays? Or you're gonna need to lump it all together in one motion?
I would lump it all together and cover the Saturdays and Sundays in one
In
motion.
other words, you can either add them or say no Sunday.
No Sundays, yeah, or you can add them. Mhm.
about Sundays.
I would not be in favor of Sundays.
I would not either.
That's generally more
It
thing,
would be
they
for
use that
me,
down
I
east
would-
more.
They
They
do vote on Sundays. where
Down
I'm
east.
from.
Yep, that's true.
Yes. They do.
I don't recall. I think you said we had tried that here one time. I don't recall there ever having been early voting in here on a Sunday, but apparently
I think, I'm going on, Angie had told us they tried it one time and it was
I just-
not conduct,
Successful.
no.
successful or not, I would not be in favor of that.
And it's just, I'm not trying to encourage the board one way or another, but it's just truly, I don't think on anybody's radar.
Mm-mm.
In the county.
No, no.
No,
It's
If
just
we were
never-
more urban
Yes.
county,
Yeah.
then I would view it differently probably, but I don't favor that here in Surry County.
That's, that's what I like. It's more urban places is generally used. People, a lot of people go straight out of church
Yes.
together to
Absolutely.
go vote.
Absolutely.
What do they call
But-
that? There's a term for that.
Yeah,
Well, and a lot, where I'm from, Anson
Uh,
County, the eastern part of the state, they vote at church. Their voting precinct
yeah.
is
Good, man.
locally in the church.
Prior to the poll, there's a slogan
Yeah.
for that and I can't think of what it
Yeah.
is.
I've heard it too.
Yeah.
Does this be do we need to put the, in the motion about the, having two machines going?
The photo ID, sure, I would.
You want that as a
do this
different
in all
motion or
one-
what?
You can do that in all one motion.
But that needs to be in a motion
The
vote.
board needs to vote on that in some motion. Yeah, the photo ID does that. Staff don't want to make that decision. You all don't have to, but we would rather you make that decision.
And this has to be unanimous also?
The photo ID does not have to be unanimous, but the hours and the Saturday, Sundays has to be unanimous.
Well, she's got a motion, don't she, right now?
Do you,
Waiting for a
did you
second.
have that as a motion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we be open every Saturday, including the one that's required, and from 8 to 3. Is that correct for Saturdays?
That's the one required,
So
Keeping it consistent, is that what you
with,
want?
yeah, I guess unless they want to do it to 7:30, but I don't think it would be necessary. 8 to 3 on every Saturday and no Sundays. And
I'll second that motion.
Would you accept an amendment to your motion to add that we also have two photo IDs available at each site?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And my second,
And you have a second. You're in agreement to that? Are you in agreement to that?
I've amended my second to include that.
So we have a motion and a second for the option of having every Saturday, that would be 3 Saturdays,
Right.
2 plus the 1 required, open from 8 until 3 at the 2 early voting sites,
Mhm.
no Sundays. And the photo ID available at each of the 2 sites. Have I repeated that as what everyone else
That's
thought
correct.
the motion was? Okay,
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
yes, now we have discussion.
Is there a willingness to consider on the other 2 Saturdays based on what the director has shared of making those till 12 noon rather than 3 o'clock because of the volume? In other words, as I understand it, it's pretty dead afternoon time.
I think
I'm
they
not-
should,
Well, I'm scared that they'll be confused.
it has to be,
and
the last
then-
Saturday has to be 8 to 3.
Right,
And
right.
make-
and
that
making
was a
them
given.
all, as a teacher, you don't confuse.
The
You don't,
students.
you don't
Okay, I'm
confuse the
just asking, I'm
students.
just asking a question.
No, you're consecutive, you're
Consistent.
consistent.
I agree that consistency will prove valuable. Plus you got kids playing whatever sports they're playing then,
Well.
that you will find them
playing
from basketball
The-
or whatever youth
Baseball
sports,
practice.
whatever youth sport they're playing at the time will
Yeah.
Be there.
Will work better if they can come at 3, up until 3.
We'll make
The
it consistent.
consistency, I think, is the
Yeah.
primary.
Okay,
Makes sense.
call for the vote.
Yes.
The motion on the floor for being open every Saturday. As also besides the one that is required
Thank you.
from
Just
8
this-
AM to 3 PM. But no Sunday be open, and the photo ID be available at each of the 2 sites. If I have repeated that motion correctly,
Photo ID machines.
machines.
Be available during the entire 17-day period, not
19.
just Saturdays.
No.
Because
First, it would be
this mo-
15.
this motion is just about Saturdays, but we need to make that photo, don't, that being every day they're open.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
That's
for
what
the
we-
entire 15 days.
Cause it sounds like, I mean, if you read it, it looks like you're just having it ready for Saturdays.
Mhm.
Yeah, see what,
We are
Cause the
It is
motion,
17 days,
at
isn't
17.
whatever, how
No,
many
we're
days
stricken
there
to
is.
Sundays out.
Right, so it'd be 15. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
17 possible days.
So there's a 17 days, now we're adding 2 to it, so it'd be 19.
it? 17.
No, it'd be 15 if we're not doing it Sunday. It's
Okay.
17 available, including Sunday, isn't it?
Time out on
15,
2.
16,
Ever how many days?
17, so subtract 2 Sundays or 3 Sundays,
15 days.
15 days, including the new Saturdays.
Yes, so
Okay.
it would be a 17-day maximum, but we are
We're
taking
voting
the 2
for
Sundays
15.
out.
Yeah.
We're voting for 2
Total of
additional
15.
Saturdays.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion as read, signify. You have a unanimous decision
Yeah.
on the times and the date.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Got me choked up.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. So. Need your all signatures. I'll need signatures before December 1st, so. Let me check real quick to make sure. I think I have to have everybody's signature. So I
On the-
might need to
On the
quickly,
motion?
I have to turn in an actual
Plan.
plan, yeah, and let me see if it's just the chair. If it is, I can get that from you, but hold on 1 second, Wayne, let me check on that.
Okay. You'll be at ease for a few minutes.
Determined amount of time.
The family.
Well, you've got Salem. Salem's here.
room back to order, please.
He's running
So-
course with it.
See if we can find that right now. I do have to have full board signature, so.
So we can do that
Oh,
now?
we do
Okay,
that,
okay.
yeah, give just a minute, so we can go on to other business, but I will need that before everyone leaves.
Okay. Any other business on your desk?
Let me make sure, I already spoke about the voter registration drives. Upcoming, candidate 101 is being hosted by the Monterey Chamber of Commerce. They've asked to hold that here, and they just basically want me to present to potential candidates ahead of filing anything that they might need to know, with campaign finance, with filing requirements, what positions or what offices are open. That's gonna be on, November the 30th. And again, it will be here. And then on Monday, of course, we're gonna do Elkin Rec Center, and then again, Reeves Community Center on Monday night for voter registration and photo ID. And then the next thing, I've got unfortunate news that, I got notification from Byron Isaacs this week. We did not, get the brick grant.
Hmm.
In any approval, so,
Don's son,
yeah, they didn't think it met the requirements,
I'm sure he tried.
requirements.
I'm sure he
So-
tried.
He did, and, so that means we have no funding for the safe room. That was
Additional
proposed.
security.
Additional security,
Oh,
the fireproof room for ballots and
5%.
machines. And of course, we have nothing in the budget for that. Now, what we do have is we've got the added security now, a view of all the cameras. We do have that. We have the wall, there's gonna be a wall built in the back with doors in the hallway. So now anyone who rents this room can't just go straight to that hall and access our supplies, because we use this hall all the way down. Once we start getting into the voting period for our totes going to precincts, we don't have room over there for all that. And so before, anyone who had this room could go right out that kitchen and pilfer through any of our totes.
That hall was full of stuff
It
right
was all-
before
it
the
was full.
election, yeah.
Now, it wasn't voting machines, it wasn't ballots, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
Not that it's anything that can't be seen, but you just don't know
Right,
what people can do.
should be secure.
And so now we're gonna have camera back there. We're gonna have a wall with a door that you have to have a badge pass. And the only people who will be able to access that hall will be us and tax. And of course, tax staff. You know, we know, and, you know, we're good, we understand they will need that access, but, so that's gonna happen. And the bollards out front,
No, I was gonna ask, was
Yeah.
that part of the
Yes.
grant
That's
or
what
is
I was
this,
thinking it
that was separate?
you know,
It's
that was
not,
separate.
Okay,
Oh,
That's gonna happen
good.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
So
gonna
it
happen.
hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't, I have spoken with the contractor,
Okay. good.
here on staff with the county, and he assures me he's gonna meet that December deadline.
Okay.
So,
Good.
Okay, good.
What is that, you say?
the bollards.
The
on
columns.
Front
Okay.
door,
Oh,
so
so you
someone
can
can't
drive.
just drive right
Okay.
through.
Yeah.
Like balls.
Oh, yeah.
So that's two good things that are gonna stay and are gonna happen, and then the camera access happens in the office. So
It's good
that's
that y'all
where we
got a,
are.
Can
You
we
got a good
reapply
working-
for the grant at another time?
Yes, and he
Okay, so
said-
it's-
We'll try again, yeah, and he says, I'll keep my ears open if there's anything else that he thinks we could qualify for,
okay, great.
in his world, in his arena.
you have a good working relationship with tax too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But you know, he was disappointed and he hated it, but I said, well, you know, like I said, we'll try again. So I think for certain, we will include those costs. I'm gonna get with him on what his costs were, his estimates were, to put that in budget request for July 1, so possibly it could be in place before the general,
Good idea.
at least.
Yeah.
That's all I think I have for other business.
Art, anything else? For the board? For the good of the board?
Could this possibly be the last, are we gonna have to meet again before the end of the year?
The only thing, Drew, is it's still unknown about these appointments to early voting. You know, I don't know if that will be before the end of the year, or will it be with the new board? of
January?
board? That's the only thing we're not certain of yet, and I think they're just trying to get through next week and canvass for the municipal elections before they can start. I think they're worried if they push information out now, it's gonna confuse counties who are in an election.
So this could be the last time this board meets. Forever.
I mean,
Essentially,
in principle.
that's
Good.
actually true, Drew. I hadn't thought about it that way, but. that's
Okay, have a
what-
clock for me or something?
That's what Tracy and I got.
You got Don and Bill? Don Isaac and Bill Hammond, they got clocks for,
Let me get me another one of these tangerine lime flavors.
yeah, we better get,
I'm with you.
I think.
Jimmy, anything
No, sir.
from your end of the table
No, sir.
for the good of the board?
Thank you, but no, sir.
Drew?
I love y'all.
Drew, would you come back to get a clock? If we called you back, would you come back to get a clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll give you my book too. You ain't gonna have to indict me to get
I'll
it.
keep my.
I got an old book. I got enough old books.
Keep my book.
You mean the big thick one?
Yeah.
Yeah, to come
Got
take
it with me. I didn't even put it on the table.
If anyone has the opportunity, if any of you all have the opportunity for this coming Saturday evening at 7 p.m. on public broadcasting TV, one of our speakers at our last training session in Concord, Tim Boyd. Tim has an interesting show that he tapes for public broadcasting, it's Front Porch Politics. And a lot of times he will interview people that holds office in a very informal atmosphere, but this particular program will be pertaining to elections. And he does interview Karen Brunson Bell. And also, one of the other persons that he interviews is the newly appointed elections director for Swain County, Bryson City, way up in the mountains.
Mhm.
A young fellow that lived in Atlanta, Georgia, that decided that he wanted to get involved in politics. And at the age of 20, applied for the position that was coming open for a two-person office, two staff member office, the director and one assistant for the County Board of Elections in Swain County. And of course, one of the requirements was to apparently have a bachelor's degree or such, but he had to finish his schooling in Atlanta before he could get the position. They gave him the position, but he couldn't take the position until he finished school and became 21. So he is a very young upstart. And so he talks about why he wanted to get involved in politics and talks about his county. And one of the things that also was interesting is Karen Brunson Bell, the state director, talking about since the 2020 election, that in 100 counties in the state, there have been 52 new directors of elections for 52 counties because of a lot of retirements, because of a lot of, I'm through with a lot of the different things going on. I'm moving on. I'm tired of the conflict, but over half of our county directors of elections, there's been an overturn. There's been a turnover.
52%.
52 election directors in the state of North Carolina overturned since 2020. Karen Brinson Bell, Tim Boyum at 7 p.m. Saturday interviews Karen.
Oh,
Also, he will be interviewing the new 21-year-old county election director in Wayne County
Oh,
that
I'd like the speakers to be off before I say the next thing. Go ahead.
so
Is it all? Oh,
No,
yeah, yes, we're still in session.
Mhm.
So anyway, I just wanted to just mention that particular
Thank
program
you.
coming up. And also to the effect that this theoretically could be our last board meeting before new law changes January 1st. I may not be here. I might not be here as chair. That will be for the future board. But either way, I just want to say that in the years that I've served this board in secretary position and chairman, that it has been a wonderful opportunity to learn so much about our county. It's been a great experience, and I thank all of you all here of the recent board and then of past boards, persons that we've worked with, that I've worked with, even when we were down to only a 3-person board. It's been great opportunity. So I thank you all for that. I thank everyone for the opportunity of serving. So whichever, however way that it turns out. You have anything for us now? I'm through.
I want to say something. I was the new member when it went from a 3 to 5 board member. And come January, it would be 5 years. I've been on the board, and I couldn't imagine anyone in this county doing and working and leading this board as gentlemanly, as an intellectually, and as a Christian more than our current. What is you all?
Chairman.
Chairman. I couldn't stop, but I want you to know, Dwayne, you carried on. You've carried on. You've tried to keep the board together. You woke us up occasionally when we get off key, but you do it gentlemanly. And I couldn't imagine you doing it any other way. And I want to tell you, it's been a privilege and a great part of my life being here. If I'm here not here, I've enjoyed working with you, and I appreciate you.
And there's
Amen.
been a lot of personal sacrifice that no one realizes
No,
beyond the professional.
absolutely. There was times that you were here probably, and you had other things on your mind, which is nothing but you're human, and it was a difficult thing, but you were here. It was time to have a board meeting, and Dwayne Carter was here to help it being carried on. And I can't imagine anyone doing it everything you did was not toward a party, not partisan anything. It was good for the good of the voters of Surry County.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, I'm not ready for
Goodbyes.
all this now. Y'all are.
That's why I asked you, was this gonna be the last meeting?
Maybe we need to get together for some Christmas something.
Oh, we're all for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The board,
That would be the thing, is whether or not it is the,
I know.
I hadn't given
I
any
had
thought to
not.
that.
I had not thought that it was possibly the last meeting.
You might have to get one clock for sure, but you. might
Yeah.
For money.
It's You want us to
You're
go-
making a little money on how many sites we're gonna have.
Oh, you got a lot of money to play
It
with.
should be split in there.
Okay,
We're
back to
saving you some
business,
money.
please, if we may. What do you have?
This needs
What had you?
signatures there that the plan, and I did check unanimous. We haven't had one in so long, I wasn't prepared for the. I wasn't giving y'all any credit, was it?
Well, no.
Just you have a little faith.
People start filing in December.
December 4th.
There's nothing for us to do while they're filing.
That's true.
I mean,
Unless we have a voter challenge, come up at this board,
Are there not court challenges to legislation
is.
that?
Yeah, he said there were
that may-
several,
But
That may yet,
there's,
uh,
three.
change things.
Right.
Stall things.
There's challenges to the photo ID
Yes.
Yeah.
that could change things. We might not have any worry about
The
the
machine.
equipment going out to the
I
early site and also felon voting.
have not thought that the voter ID law would. I've not thought that it would be delayed. I believe that it will. I believe come the primary, you will be required to show a voter ID.
I agree. I think so.
I believe on January the 1st, there will still be 5 members of this board seated though.
well, it could
I
be hope.
just,
Yeah.
I just believe that that's the case. I've not
Well,
given
that's-
any serious.
That's the other lawsuit that
Yeah.
the governor has filed against Senator Berger.
Well, I was
In that
pleased to know
particular
that ours was in federal court.
Right.
Instead of 49
State.
that fix us,
Yeah.
it's federal.
Yeah.
Where our friend Judge Biggs sits.
Yeah, I think I'm like you, Clark. I've not accepted that yet.
Well,
But Mark said it's the
I'm talking
law
to
of the
people
land
from
right
both
now.
It is the
Sides.
law of the
It
land,
is.
but
From both
December
sides
31st isn't here.
who have said.
Yeah.
What horrible, horrible mistake.
It's just gonna be so much damn all the time.
On a photo ID challenge, it could be ruled upon after primary,
That's
where
that's
that
true
we
too.
would be requiring photo IDs of everyone to vote at primary, but then it be rescinded and not be used in general election. It's all above our pay
There's
grade.
just a lot of unknowns.
There are, and to that point, this is the constant battle. Judges are to interpret the laws that the legislature has passed. It's not their job, nor do they have the authority to actually write a law, or they've got to come up with reasons why it's not a valid law,
Unconstitutional.
unconstitutional.
Right.
State constitution, US constitution. Well, if it's federal, it's going to be US constitution. We've got a majority of states that are now requiring voter ID. So I don't know, it's just in my mind, understanding the separation of powers, a judge may try to make that decision, but once it got kicked up, it's going to come back to the General Assembly. So we're probably seeing voter ID for the rest of our foreseeable lives.
We
Anyway.
had to do it one time about 10 or 12 years ago. We had it for an election.
And it disappeared.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, I remember. Was
Yeah,
when we was in
2012.
the health center down here.
Yeah.
Well, people will get accustomed to it. and it'll-
LaCory
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
trying to push that.
Yes, right.
It'll just be another thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You
true.
know.
If there is nothing else.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
And I
We have
second
a motion and we have a second for adjournment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
it.
Aye. That's right.
Now, I have something to say.